Hello, hello, and welcome to Pressing Buttons, episode 19. I'm Hugo,
I'm Nick.
and I got that right. Got the right number this time. Haha. Quick note before we get into the episode. I feel like shit, physically. I've been doing some live fire training all week. A lot of going under stuff, going through mazes, pushing stuff, going through fire, pumping hose, you know? Not a euphemism. Not a
Whoa,
euphemism.
whoa,
Not a
hey,
you.
this is a family-friendly podcast.
Yeah, not a euphemism. But just doing my annual firefighter training, and it was a rough week. And then I think I got sick on Friday, and still working, and I got even more sick. So if I sound like shit, it's because of that, not because I normally sound like shit. Because you listeners know my voice.
Yeah, I think
Nick,
I think you know. I'd
I
be
also look like
curious.
shit.
Yeah, the YouTube is going to be pretty rough this week.
I am not on drugs or anything
I
like
s-
that.
yeah, I also look like shit, but I don't really have any good excuse like Hugo
Mm,
does, so I
mm.
just look like shit. But no, I think you have a pretty nasally voice
Yeah.
anyway, so I feel like you maybe could have flown under the radar here, but you wanted to call it out.
I don't know if that's a compliment.
It's not it's
Because
neither.
everybody,
It's just an explanation of how your voice sounds. Like
well,
it's
everybody says I sound like Ray Romano, and I never, like, I don't hear it. It's one of those things where, like, oh, you
oh
sound like
yeah,
Ray Romano.
you definitely do.
I guess I
And
don't
then do
watch.
you think Ray Romano's voice is nasally?
I don't like. I'm not a Ray Romano guy. So like, I've never even. I think I've watched like two episodes of Everybody Loves Raymond just because it was on. I'm a
Mm,
Seinfeld guy. Fuck Ray Romano. I'm the original voice. But
fair
also,
enough.
if I could get paid because I sound like Ray Romano, I'm down for that. Call me for the next Ice Age, right? He does Ice Age. Call me for that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'll be the voice of the mammoth. All right. Anyways, enough about my shitty voice and my physical state. We have a podcast, and first off, we're gonna start the week with some heavy news that we heard throughout the week. The first one being Redfall and Starfield delayed to 2023. Microsoft made the announcement. These two huge AAA titles just got pushed. We kind of have made this prediction the last couple episodes just because they haven't shown anything substantial in the last couple months. Big uh, games convention June is coming up. Previously E3, we still don't know what to call it. Summer's Game Fest from Jeff Keighley and all that is coming in June. Big showcase. You have Nintendo doing a showcase. You have Sony probably doing a showcase, and then you have obviously Microsoft, Bethesda doing a showcase, and all the other developers. It's still going to continue like it normally would have at the beginning of June. So we hadn't gotten any sort of information on this. So not a surprise that it ultimately got delayed till next year. Obviously, they're probably going to show something during the press conference just to have people see what they're up to, what it's looking like. I'm not too keen on the idea that they have a lot to show. Just because they haven't shown anything at all, I think they're not going to have a lot to show. It's going to look very, very rough. Speaking of rough games, we're going to talk about another one after this, but it's going to look very rough. I mean, it's one of those games that they had very high expectations and they set a time frame for November, which was never really concrete. Their ambitions were too big, I think. So that's going to be pushed to next year. Starfield, and then you have Redfall, which was the other one that vampire shooter, different classes type thing. That's also getting pushed to next year. That one was getting developed by Arcane. That one I'm a little bit more sad than Starfield because I trust Arcane more in terms of the quality of content of games that they're going to be bringing. So I'm definitely disappointed in that one more than Starfield. My hopes for Starfield was that it was just going to be a good game. I would definitely play it, but Skyrim in space wasn't really enticing me. What do you think when you heard the news? I mean, you must be happy because your third of the year
I'm
has
not.
now moved on to the next year.
I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm happy. I think it was a relatively easy call to make. That game probably gets Starfield probably gets delayed, just based on the ambition of the game and like the lack of information that we've seen to date. So I think that one. So really wasn't surprised there. Uh, I mean, I'm on team 2024 for that game. Like I think it's just gonna
Wow,
keep. It's yeah yeah
you're
yeah. Like
just pushing it. You keep
yeah.
pushing it.
It's I think it's 2024. And then it would either be I think it's holiday. I think didn't they say something about like first half of next year?
Yeah, it looks like
Yeah.
they were like, oh yeah, first half of 2023. I do not believe that at all.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
but you're like just push it another
I
year.
think yeah, I think it would either be holiday next year or it slips into Q1 of the following year. So we'll
Do
see.
you think they
Um,
can afford to? I mean, real quick before you continue, do you think they can afford to after they just have this delay and it's like okay, first half of 2023, and then next year 2023 is here, and it gets pushed to holiday 2023. Do you think they can afford to, with the fans and the investment that they made into this game, to push it that far? Definitely, if the game's not ready, I think it's the right call. But obviously, to just keep pushing the game, you're definitely going to get a bad rap, and the fans aren't going to be happy. Do you think? I mean, obviously, you think it's going to probably get pushed, but do you think they should be making this call? Do you think they should try to push it out and then fix it later, like Cyberpunk?
no, I mean that's I mean they can definitely afford it. It's Microsoft. I think they'll generally take the decision of release the game when it's ready, which I don't think they did with Halo Infinite. I think they did delay that game, but it still didn't quite reach expectations. But I do think their general philosophy is like we want the game to be as good as it can, and we'll release it when it's ready. And they I think certainly have the resources to do that. Uh, so that'd be my take on that. And then I don't know. I would need to like kind of revisit what 2023 looks like in terms of big releases, but I think 2023 is going to be this like absolutely insane year of huge games. So maybe there's actually a good reason just from like a crowded market perspective that they're like, yeah, let's just actually push that to early 2024. So I don't know. But yeah, they can definitely afford it. It's Microsoft.
What
And
kind of
then
burst the bubble?
I think fans. I think maybe your question's more like on the from a fan perspective. Like, will they be? I mean, fans will complain about pretty much everything, and then I think they'll, if the game ends up being incredible, they immediately just focus on how incredible the game is, and they don't like care so much about like how long it took to get there. So, which is I think you'd rather have that than like what happened with Cyberpunk, where people were very frustrated with the delays, but then when the game came out, it was just an absolute, kind of train wreck, which made everything even worse. So I think that's you definitely don't want that.
Well, I think it kind of burst my bubble of I thought that 2023, 2022 was going to be the year where like we're back to developing normally. We're back to releasing normal after 2 years of COVID. Everything's right on track. This is going to be the year where all the heavy, big blockbusters are going to be released. But obviously, we're still not there. COVID has another uptick coming. And with these two games, you have Redfall and Starfield, and then Breath of the Wild. Those are two big blockbusters that got pushed to 2023. Obviously, the more time that the game has to cook in the oven to make it better, the better it is for everybody. I'm one of those. I'm all for it. There's a crazy backlog of games that I still haven't finished, so I'll just play something like that, so I don't really mind it as much. But that makes you think with Sony coming out, they're still on track from them. They're still on track according to them to release God of War this year. So if Sony does release God of War this year, which we might not have high hopes for because it might just get delayed the way things are going, that would put kind of Sony in the front spot of having one of the biggest blockbusters actually released this year. like you said, Halo was a disappointment in terms of player engagement and numbers. A lot of people were disappointed with the overall state of the multiplayer. Definitely really upset with the state of the campaign. They promised co-op campaign. That's still not released. That's on track to come out in August. A lot of people were definitely expecting that. Obviously, co-op Halo is one of the things that would drive it forward and get more sales numbers. But with the studios having a hard time configuring the seasons and the season passes, especially now with all these live service games having season passes, 343 is definitely not having a good time. And from what Microsoft announced at the Game Awards back in December, there really weren't any big blockbusters besides Halo and Hellblade, Sesuna's Sacrifice that you were looking forward to. So now with Redfall and Starfield getting pushed, they really have nothing on the schedule. Obviously, with the showcase next month, they're definitely going to show more stuff, but I don't expect a lot of things to be released this year. It's kind of like a push it to next year. And it is kind of, it's kind of sad, but at the same time, there's not a big market out there for Xbox One X's. The supply has been low for Xbox and PlayStation, so there's not a lot of consoles in people's hands, so it's kind of not too bad. Because definitely, if there was more consoles out there in people's hands and there were no games to play, no new big blockbusters to play, it would be a disappointment. But at least Microsoft can fall back on Game Pass and release maybe more of Bethesda's old catalogs into Game Pass. We'll see how that goes. But there's only so much old back catalog that you can feed people before they're like, okay, give me some new games. I don't want to be playing old games. Give me new stuff. Were you looking forward to anything else besides I would say Starfield or Redfall? Like, how do you see this playing out for them the rest of the year now that they don't have like a big blockbuster name
Yeah, they don't.
to sell?
They don't get much. I think they really got to lean in on Game Pass as kind of like their crown jewel for this year. So I think that's where they're going to drive most excitement around the Xbox platform. I think that and cloud, which I think we've kind of talked about that in last week's episode. Really, the combination of Game Pass and cloud being a good growth driver. But I think that just gets more people into the Xbox ecosystem. It doesn't. But so I think they can do that still without huge first party games. But I do think there may be like pushing the limit of how much they can do with driving like user acquisition into Game Pass without big exclusive games. I think there's still just people generally excited about being able to access all these different games, and it's easy and it's relatively inexpensive. But when they rolled out the Game Pass service, it was definitely like one of the big bullet points was you get access to first party exclusive games, AAA quality, and I don't think they've yet kind of delivered on that promise of your subscription. So I think me personally, like I'm fine with it. Like I got plenty of stuff to play, but I do wonder if people start getting frustrated by that over the coming months.
Yeah, it's funny because a couple episodes ago, when we did the Game Pass / PlayStation Plus Premium, whatever the name is, I forget. Big comparison. Our whole big thing was like day and date games being available on Xbox, and as opposed to PlayStation, where it's like, okay, but the games are getting pushed to 2023. You're not gonna have them anyways. So that's kind of funny. But it's one of those where we'll have to wait and see. Honestly, like in 3 weeks, it could be a whole different thing that we're talking about just because we don't know what they got cooking up. Obviously, as the weeks get closer to the showcase, there'll be some leaks and stuff like that, and we'll definitely talk about them in a good manner, making sure it's accurate and all that. So hopefully they got some tricks up their sleeves and they can, save themselves, quote unquote, because it's looking rough out there if you're an Xbox head.
Yeah.
Maybe you should become a PC head. like us now.
Yeah, I'm not sweating anything.
Yeah, I'm fine too, and I have a PlayStation.
Yeah.
All right, that's just me boasting now. I'm sorry.
Yeah, stop flexing, dude.
Yeah. Well.
It's pressing
All right.
buttons, not flexing buttons.
Ooh, another podcast. That one's for people who work out, buffs or something. I don't know. We have all these good podcast names. All right. So the next thing we want to talk about was Gotham Knights. They just recently did a 13-minute gameplay showcase, and we have very strong thoughts. There was a lot of chatter in the Pressing Buttons Discord, which, by the way, if you're not on it, you should definitely get on it. It's a lot of good communication between video game fans. Our good friend Felix was like, we should talk about this, and we totally agree with him. It's one of the topics we wanted to bring up because we saw the footage, we saw the gameplay. I would say Nick and I are big fans of the Arkham series, the Batman Arkham series. I played all three games. I enjoyed them. I enjoyed the story, the combat, the voice actors. Obviously, I'm a big, huge Batman the Animated Series fans. So,
Can you name the voice actor?
Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill.
Okay.
Like,
All right. I
you
was
checking my credentials?
yeah, I'm just checking you. I'm just checking.
All right. Obviously, it's the Batman I grew up with, basically, in animated form, obviously. But big fans of the Arkham series franchise and the way they revolutionized that quick button press combat, which you can now see in something like Spider-Man, in the Mad Max game, in a lot of games that kind of utilize that combat, and then how big the open world was, and you felt like you were in Gotham and stuff like that. And from seeing this Gotham Knights gameplay, it looks like they're trying to do like a copy and paste. And it's very hard to see this and not be disappointed just because we do know that Rocksteady, which were the original developers for the Arkham series, they have moved on to do the Suicide Squad. And I think the reason they moved on was because they felt like they got everything that they could out of the Arkham series. And even though it might have like the same animation style, the Suicide Squad game that they're coming out with, it definitely feels different. It feels like Sunset Overdrive. It feels much more chaotic. You can do a lot more stuff. You're playing these anti-heroes as opposed to playing Batman. So it's definitely, you might see it at a glance that that it's the same type of game as an Arkham series game, but when you see it in action, you can tell it's a totally different game. Whereas with the Gotham Knights gameplay video, I watched the whole thing. They showcase Red Hood and Nightwing gameplay. It just looked very bland. It looks like the character animations for Red Hood and Nightwing, they were interchangeable. They were like the same thing. Yeah, Nightwing has his batons and Red Hood has his guns, but they moved the same. The combat was the same. I was very disappointed. It does look like an old gen game, which is funny because they were like, "Oh, this is only going to be released on Xbox One X and PS5." So just like a whole disappointment for it, especially for me because I'm a big Batman fan. You know, little pressing buttons trivia. Superman is my favorite superhero out of everybody, but Batman very close second. I don't know, man. I mean, I still might pick it up just because I love the series and I want to see what's up, but just very disappointed. What did you think when you saw the gameplay footage?
Yeah, I agree. It looked pretty rough. It was one of those games where I just kind of assumed I was going to pick it up and play it just because I'm a fan of the series uh, and I'm like in desperate need of online multiplayer games. Like I just need more. Like we just need more different types of games to play with online co-op. And I was like, oh, like that'll be like a good pick up and play game just to play with friends. And yeah, like I mean, based on that showcase, like I don't think I'm gonna play it at all. So from that perspective, it's a bummer, and I'm just like, oh well, I'll just wait until Suicide Squad comes out to get my fill of that type of that type of game.
Another game that got pushed to 2023.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, yeah, obviously talking about that. One of the main things that really sold the Arkham series was the combat, and I was a big fan of it just because it was so fluid, and you can kind of follow the combos. Definitely, the the longer you do the combos, the more intricate it gets, and it kind of you have to keep up. But comparing that to the combat on Gotham Knights, it definitely looks like a knockoff version. It just looks very rough. The weapons and the attacks look very uncoordinated. The movement don't look fluid. Obviously, it's a game that's going to have four different characters because you're also going to be able to play as Robin, and you're also going to be able to play as Batgirl. But Red Hood and Nightwing looking so similar, moving so similar, I don't have a lot of high hopes for Robin and Batgirl. I mean, obviously, I think maybe they should have showcased either Nightwing and Red Hood and somebody else, so you can kind of see the different figures, because it was just rough, man. And that's one of those things that disappoints me with these type of games when it's different characters, like where you're playing as or 2 to 4 characters, but they all kind of move the same. We can all, if you're a big Batman fan, you know that Nightwing has like a very acrobatic flow to his stuff, with how he moves and how he attacks and all that stuff. Red Hood obviously is more rough with his guns and stuff like that, more of a bruiser than anything. And then you have Batgirl, very acrobatic, a lot of maneuverability. Look at me practicing words. And then Robin, obviously, being played by Damian Wayne, I think, in this one. Very stealthy with the being trained with the League of Assassins, is it? Yes, League of Assassins, I think.
League of Shadows.
League of Shadows. There you go. Thank you for correcting me, because I would hate to see the listener
you just
emails giving me shit.
you just dodged a bullet there.
Yeah, League of Shadows. There you go. But yeah, like I just when it's games like these, when it's games like these, especially because I am so embedded into the lore and the franchise, and the characters. Like, I want to see diversity. I want to see what makes them unique, and it's not looking good for me.
Yeah,
And
I think it would have been okay if some of the characters, if there was like a lot of overlap with the characters. So it's like, okay, it's 4 characters, but uh, it's actually more like 2 unique characters, and then there's like a clone of each of them. That would have been fine if it was actually a 4-player game, which I think it was always like unclear whether it would be like a 4-player co-op game. But then they made it clear that it's not a 4-player game. It's a 2-player co-op game. So then it kind of almost like, okay, why do you need so many characters then that like aren't distinct? So I have to imagine at some point it was meant to be a 4-player game, and then they had to like backtrack for technical reasons or whatever.
which, now that you bring it up, it kind of makes you wonder if maybe they push Suicide Squad to next year, because it would kind of interfere with what this was trying to do, where it's like, oh, a DC based game and another DC based game, but this one's 2-player co op and it's rough. Whereas we've seen some footage, some gameplay footage slash video footage of Suicide Squad, and that just looks way, way better. And that one's being advertised as 4-player. So, like, yeah, maybe they push it just so it won't step on each other's toes, and you can kind of see the superior product. But we'll definitely, as the release gets closer, maybe it'll definitely look better. They'll take some criticisms. They still have 5 months to kind of polish it up. So hopefully it does get that polish it needs, because I want to get me into some Batman universe.
Do you want to talk about the like character stat screen? I know a lot of people were
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
up in arms about that.
That just looks. It looked very simplified. Not that I need my character UI start screen UI to just look very polished and like glittery and all that stuff, but that just looked very copy and paste. The lettering was very bland. The changing of the layout was very bland. Like when you was changing armor just to see the stats, that was kind of very bland. I don't know. It looked really rough. And from playing so many games that have like such a good inventory screen, like Destiny has a great inventory screen, and it's kind of easy to see where everything's at. And when you're hovering over something that you're trying to change or something like that, it kind of pops out. So you're focused on that. With this one, it was just like it was very hard not to be to. It was very hard to stay focused. Like I was like I'm looking everywhere, and it was bad.
Yeah, well, I think it was like a really busy, UI, but I think it's also more just, this game series was totally fine not having like a wildly complex inventory and like loot system. And then it seems like they're kind of going down that path of having that type of system into the game. So I think that's what people are also kind of reacting to is seeing that it's like, do you really need like does it need to be like the Destiny system in your Batman, you know, beat 'em up game?
Yeah,
So
which is
I don't
like
know.
it's like one of the things that did in Marvel's Avengers games that they had like that same
Yeah.
UI. Like you don't need this for the Avengers, but maybe that's another list. We should definitely write a long form email and send it to them. This is what we found wrong with the game. But what do we know? Maybe they'll clear it up by the end, and we'll eat our words. Yeah, we'll see.
I would love to, but
Oh, yeah, we
we'll
would love
see.
to. So please prove us wrong. All right. So moving on. The other thing we wanted to talk about was Nino Kuni Crossroads. I know we talked about this a couple episodes back, but now has a firm release date, May 25th. So that's couple weeks from now, 2 weeks. Definitely one of those that kind of snuck up on you because they announced it and then it's kind of getting released. I know you're super excited for it. You love the Nino Kuni world. I kind of want to check it out just because it's going to be so accessible. What do you think? Are you ready
Yeah, I
for
mean
this? I know you've been looking for a new game to play.
the game came out in certain parts of Asia, I think late last year. So the game's been, released. So they've just been working on like the localization of it, and I think they've been kind of like in testing mode for the last several weeks. So I've actually seen they've been giving codes to specific Twitch streamers, and they've been streaming the game. Uh, so yeah, I think maybe they're just doing some tests, and then once they got some good feedback, they were gonna like land a date. So yeah, I think in the last few days they said releasing on May 25th. It'll be, I think it's pretty similar to Genshin Impact, where it'll be a free to play gacha style game. So we'll have to see how that actually shakes out with how onerous that the monetization model is. But I'll definitely give it a download and check it out on a PC. It looks great. I mean, it's Studio Ghibli. You're running around in a Studio Ghibli world, so I'll check it. I'll at a minimum check it out for like a couple days, and if it ends up being fun, I'll dig deeper into it.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same boat as you. I might just sneak it in there in between my Destiny play sessions and stuff like that. The new Destiny season actually releases right around the same time, so that might take up some of my time just redoing everything. But I'm excited. Like I said, I never really played the series, but I know it's well known and it's a good series, so I'm excited to check it out. All right, and then we're gonna close out the news kind of with our very first impression of a console. And what console might you be asking? Might you
It's
be
the
like, what are they talking about?
it's the
What is it,
Playdate.
Nick?
The
It's the
Playdate. It's
Playdate.
the very small portable game machine with the crank. So I think its shtick has been that it's a little portable game playing device with a crank. If you're
It's
on
the
the video podcast, I'm showing it
yeah.
off right now. It is very small. Uh,
It looks cute.
it's very cute. My wife looked at it and was like, "Oh my god, this thing's so cute. I want to play it, and then she hated both of the games and stopped playing it. So, and
It's good for the
my experience wasn't that far off, by the way. But I'll get into that a little bit more. But she thought it was very cute.
wife review. It looks good. Plays like shit.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, but I know it's the one console review that you've been waiting for. Haha. No,
Yeah, I ordered this thing. Well, I'm way more interested in the Steam Deck, but
yeah,
I
that's
was
the big one we're gonna
fascinated.
be doing.
Yeah, yeah, I was fascinated. It's just like a very quirky, niche portable device. So I just wanted to check it out more just for fun. So it's $180. You get the actual device, and then you also get access to what they call like season one of the games. And basically, what that means is you get the device, you start off with two games, and then every week you'll get delivered two new games. I actually don't know how many weeks that lasts, but for some period of time, season one, you'll get two new games every week. It just has a Wi-Fi signal on it, so you just connect it to your home Wi-Fi and download games through that. Um, Again, it's very small. I ended up again, if you're on video, you can see I got like this case that's an option. Um, for me personally, if I didn't have this case, the thing would be unbelievably uncomfortable to hold for more than like 3 minutes. So I would definitely recommend getting the case, which is another I think like $30, just because it gives you like a little bit more grip to it.
Yeah, I thought it looked like a
Um,
3DS for a little bit, for a second.
it's just no, it's just like a kind of magnetic case.
I thought
Not
it'd
a
be
not a
longer.
3DS.
Now, let me ask you a couple questions. Uh, I know you said it comes with like that season one thing. Now, if you wanted to purchase other games before you get the free ones for the season, is that available? Is there a shop?
So I think I'm still figuring this out. You can't buy games. I think there's a way to get it. There's a. Have you heard of the site itch.io? It's like where it's like a store for like a lot of indie games, generally for PC. But I found that there's a way where you can, because there's actually like a development tool for the Playdate. So really anyone can just create their own games for the system, and then people will upload those into itch.io as an example, and then you can. I still need to figure out a way to download games from that platform. So there's a way to download new games, but I think in terms of, I guess what Playdate as a company is officially supporting, it's really through this season access model. Uh, I think it's an interesting release model. I would say I personally like didn't love it with I just got this new device. I'm excited by the new device. I am like given two games that I had no choice over, and I happen to hate both of the games. My wife also hated both of the games. And so then like after 5 minutes I'm like, okay, well I'll just put this thing away and not play it until I get something that I like. So I feel like uh I think they're new like who knows if they'll ever like change the model, but I think for someone who just got the device, figuring out a way to give the customer like a little bit more choice around what they start with, because otherwise it's just kind of like a frustrating situation where you're like, oh, I just got this thing and I don't like the games and therefore I won't play it. But apparently in week two, there's like a cool game. There's at least one cool game. The other thing that's kind of odd is it's because of like shipping, like timing, and there were like some supply chain issues and whatever. So they're releasing or they're shipping the devices in like phases, and the season starts when you actually activate your device. So like everyone's on kind of different release schedules. So there's a lot of people who got the device before I did, and they're already like on like week 3 or 4 or something. So they already have like way more games than I do, just because they got their device before me. So I think that's kind of odd.
I mean,
Uh,
it sounds odd, but it kind of works out for you because then it's like you're reading in the forums, like, wait till week 3, season 1.
I
That's a good
guess,
one.
but then if you kind of wanted to be like surprised, by what games are coming out, like you don't really get that. So it's I don't know, it's definitely quirky. Um, I think I'm still open minded about that type of release model. I think again, it's just really the when you first get it. I think like I would hope that there's a way where they can give people a little bit more choice around what they want, like because people there's like a bunch of games out there, and being able to be like, okay, there's this one game I feel pretty good that I'm gonna like, and I want to have that be like one of my starter games, and then beyond that, it becomes more of like a discovery thing where they're just gonna send you new stuff, and some of it you might like, other games you probably won't like, but that's fine. Um, so that was kind of my experience with the actual like games distribution. And then the other pretty critical piece of feedback is the screen. The screen isn't backlit, so it's black and white, but it's not backlit. So you basically need to be playing in like perfect lighting conditions, otherwise it's like really hard to see. And I was definitely getting like PTSD from the original Game Boy, and like trying to play the original Game Boy in like the back seat of my parents' car, which was like very difficult to do, and you need to buy like all those add-ons and magnifying screens. It's just like, so to me, I'm just like, how can you not have, even if it costs more, or like it can't cost that much more. Maybe there was like battery life concerns, but like to me, it really cripples the, like I don't want to take the thing anywhere now because I'm just going to worry about lighting conditions. So it's basically going to sit next to my, like it's going to be like on my desk whenever I like have a spare moment or whatever. I could see myself like picking up and playing it for a little bit, but like I'm not going to be carrying it around with me everywhere, which almost kind of like defeats the purpose of it being this really small device.
Now, one other thing I wanted to ask you about, one of its main kind of gimmick, its main gimmick kind of like pushing point was the crank. And I know that the uh, people who made it were like, yeah, every game that gets developed for this or whatever is gonna utilize the crank, so it's kind of a thing. Those 2 games that it has that you've played, do you think they made good use of the crank? I know you said that they're not good games or you don't like them, but like, is the crank? Are you doing anything with the crank? Are you cranking it up?
Yeah, I would say so. It's like a surfing game, uh, which I mean, I guess to answer your question is like no. Like I think you could more or less recreate those games just using like a D-pad. Um, it's like so the one is like it's like a surfing game where you're like using the crank to like turn the surfboard, and you're like riding a big wave, and you're trying to do like all these tricks and stuff. And then the other game is like you're just like walking around and taking photos of birds, and you use the crank to like once you have your camera, you're using the crank to like focus the camera, and it's just like okay, so they're using it like whether it's like the only way that you can control something is, I think maybe that's debatable, but I don't know. I think uh it's interesting. Like to me, I just want to like, can you just give me a fishing game? Like it's like that seems to me like a no brainer. Like just give me like a fishing game, and that's probably all I really need on the device. So
That's probably coming down the line. Well,
I'm sure, yeah.
I kind of want to come up with a scoring system for things that we either review or stuff like that. I think I'm just gonna, for now, I'm just gonna say you're not gonna be pressing too many buttons on the Playdate.
What's the total number of buttons? 10 buttons or 5 buttons or
Five
six
buttons.
buttons?
I want to say 5 buttons.
5 buttons.
Not yeah, right in the middle. I think you're gonna be probably pressing like one button on this one.
This is a this is two. I would give it a 2 out of 5, but maybe there's room for that to increase
Yeah, we'll
once there's
see with
better
the
games.
season. We'll see with the season.
But
I
yeah,
guess you're gonna
but
keep us updated.
I basically would recommend this to 0 people. Is so maybe
For
it is a
now.
one button. Yeah, for now. Like I would be
Yeah.
like, do not buy this device unless you like. It's just everything you love, everything about it, and you think it's the thing that you need to have. But I wouldn't really recommend anyone buy this thing.
What's the big dilemma of console and the games? You gotta have good synergy with both. So maybe down the road we'll change it to a couple
Well,
more buttons.
what's so bizarre is like, let's say you're like 8 weeks in, there's this like really great game that you like want to play, and you buy the system because you want that game. Well, guess what? You have to buy the system, and then wait 8 weeks based on when your season starts to actually play it. Like
Uh,
it's
I'm
ridiculous.
about to I'm about to buy one, have the seasons pass, and then when that good game gets there, I'm gonna sell it to somebody that wants it.
Oh yeah, no, that's not a bad idea.
The market on eBay is gonna be through the roof.
Yeah, but I still have to check. I like some of these games might be making their way on the internet, and it's like easy enough to download them. I don't know. I got to look into that more, but it is like an inconvenience to have to figure out how to do that.
All right, so we'll keep you guys updated with Nick's impressions of the Playdate, and might get more buttons, might get less buttons. We don't know. Buttons are tricky. All right. So that does it for our news segments that we wanted to talk about, news and announcements. And we're going to move on to closing thoughts. I'll lead off first. Back to our regularly scheduled program of
Thank
talking
you,
first.
thank you. Last week was just really set me off.
Yeah, three for a loop. But I really don't have a lot to kind of talk about this week, just because, like I said, I was training a lot and I didn't really get a chance to play. I think I turned my computer on for like 2 minutes, logged into Steam, talked to some people, talked to Keezy and Ace, and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be not playing the whole week," and then I logged off. So no games for me. Luckily, I was able to check out some League of Legends. Right now, the mid-season invitational is going on in South Korea. All the teams from the major regions are playing it out. From Korea, from China, from Japan, from Europe, from North America. So they're battling it out. It's been the first week. It's been really fun to see everybody's play style and what champions they pick and how they play and what they're relying on. And it's also kind of fun to see for the tournament, like which champions are going to be the ones picked because they provide the better win advantage. So I've been watching that mostly. It's been pretty fun. North America has not done well. I think they only beat the team that hasn't won any games, and then they got beat by Europe so much that G2, which is the European team, and Evil Genius, which is the American team, the G2 is like flaming them online, which is hilarious. So sucks to be North America League fan, but that's okay because I'm rooting for South Korea. T1 all day, baby. Go Faker. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. That's my closing thoughts. Hopefully next week I got more stuff for you guys. What about you, Nick?
That's by far the most pathetic closing thoughts from Hugo in the entirety of this podcast.
I know, man. I know. It was just a busy week.
That's like a Nick closing thoughts.
That is a Nick closing thought.
Yeah.
The good thing is I only have to do this training. Go ahead.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
The good thing is like I only have to do this training for 2 weekends a year, so this won't happen again until next year. So we'll see.
Okay. All right. Well, I got a lot. I got to make up a lot here. The good news is that I was pretty busy. So I think probably maybe there's like two big updates. One was Miles Morales. So I think last week I mentioned I was going to pick that game up with because I finished Stranger Paradise. I needed a new game. Sony recently rolled out their VRR patch update, so I wanted to like check that out. Also, I just been wanting to complete Miles Morales. Basically since PS5 launch. I think I got it at launch and then played with it like a little bit, but just never got around to completing it. So I basically did. I think I did that pretty quick. I mean, I picked it back up last weekend and I beat it. So it's like a short, it's like a very short game. But I really enjoyed it. Uh, I enjoyed the first Spider-Man game as well. So you'd kind of expect it. I was like this one. It looks incredible. Um, to me, it basically, I would say, like PS5 with VRR and a like a high refresh rate TV. It's now at a point where it's like, okay, this is like PC gaming performance, but that was the experience I had like in 2015. So it was like 2015 was when I first had the high end GPU with a high refresh rate monitor, and it's like, oh my god, how this is amazing and so smooth or whatever. So to me, it was the first time the consoles have ever like actually delivered that. So I think that's awesome. I don't know if I have too much to add other than it was just a fun game. I'm debating whether I try to like platinum it or get the completion rate up just because it was such a short game. I think because of that, because I just kind of did this, Batman Arkham style combat game. I don't necessarily love that combat system. Like I think it's like good enough, but I feel like I got my fill with that combat system, and so now because of that, there's like and how bad the Gotham Knights trailer looked. Like there's just no way I'm gonna play that game anytime soon. So
Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to ask you was, since you played the original, the regular Spider-Man, and then now you played Spider-Man Miles Morales, did you enjoy the difference that you could feel from the two characters? Because obviously, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, has his own unique powers, and then you got Miles Morales, Spider-Man. He has kind of the same powers, but then he also has like the invisibility and he has the electricity. Like, did you enjoy that aspect of it where it felt different, where you weren't just playing Spider-Man but a different person?
it didn't feel that different. Yeah. So basically, you have I guess bioelectricity, which is like a pretty big mechanic in the game, and then you can turn invisible. So that changes things up quite a bit as well. So I thought it was just more of like a maybe like an evolution of the core gameplay as opposed to it being this like wildly different experience. But it was fun. Like I had a good time. I would actually need to. It's bit like I don't. When did the first Spider-Man even come out? I feel like that was
I would say like
pretty
3 years, 3, 4 years ago.
okay. Yeah, so some like that, and so I actually don't really remember a lot of the specific mechanics in that game. So I would need to go back and check that out. But yeah, to me, it's kind of more or less the same with a couple of extra things thrown on top of it. Is kind of how I'd view it. Uh, but it's just so good. Like it's just swinging around in New York with
The
the
best.
VR and the updated graphics. Like it's awesome.
Yeah,
I
it's
very rarely, even though you can fast travel in the game, I'd be like,
yeah.
I'm swinging.
I mean, especially for us, like we're from New York City, so just to see it and it's very accurately portrayed in certain parts where you're like, oh, I know where that is. I know what building that is and stuff like that. That's pretty cool. One reason I kind of asked was because obviously the next one's coming up. We don't know when, probably next year, and that one's gonna have Venom. So obviously you're probably gonna be playing as Venom. Or some version of Spider-Man with the Venom suit, and then you're gonna probably be playing as Miles Morales. Then you're gonna be playing as Peter Parker, Spider-Man as well. So I just wanted to kind of see if that was different, and it's kind of something you can see in the future, where Insomniac's gonna make it very diverse. But I trust Insomniac as a developer, and especially with the combat and stuff like that. So I'm excited for this future Spider-Man.
Yeah, is do we know is Venom confirmed to be playable or was that?
No, I don't. I
Um,
don't. It's not confirmed, I think, but just obviously because it's Venom, they're probably, and especially kind of knowing the Spider-Man comic storyline, you can kind of see where he'll probably get the Venom suit, and then he'll be able to use the Venom powers and the specifics of what Venom can do with the suit, where he can make objects out of the suit and stuff like that. Like he's basically Green Lantern, but with a Venom suit
yeah,
type of thing.
I would need to confirm. Like, I think like the post credits in both the Spider-Man game and Miles Morales, I think have like a slightly different take on Venom, but I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, I might just have
But
to. I'll have to replay it myself.
yeah,
Like I'll
either
because I
way, like
didn't. Yeah, I didn't replay. I didn't play Miles Morales just because it came out a little bit later, and I was kind of already over Spider Man. But I love the game, so I think I might just. I have it on my PlayStation 5 collection for free, so I'll probably replay that again.
it's a nice like I basically beat it within a week, so it's a great kind of digestible game if you got something you want to complete in a week. I think it's a great option. And yeah, I definitely want like Venom is one of my favorite characters, so I'm hoping he's playable.
Nice. All right. And what was the other thing that you want to talk about? What
Oh,
was
I
the other
watched.
games that you played?
I don't know if I can say too much, but yeah, I watched Doctor Strange. Watched that on Mother's Day, which, if you watch the movie, you could say it's arguably one of the greatest Mother Days movies of all time.
There you
Uh, I would not. I don't think I was
go.
going to say that, but I thought it was. If you watch the movie,
If your mother's a
you'll know what I
Marvel
mean. Yeah.
fan, then yeah.
Well, no, for like story reasons.
Oh, okay,
I
okay.
just thought it was a interesting movie to watch on Mother's Day. Uh,
Now, without getting
yeah,
into spoilers. Oh, well, no. Say what you were gonna say. I was gonna ask you. I'll ask you after.
no, just
No, I was
start
gonna
hitting
say
me with
without getting
questions.
into spoilers. What other Marvel movie would you compare it to in terms of? Because I know you have a different tier for your favorite Marvel movies. I think Guardians of the Galaxy for you is up there and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Where for me, like Captain America is like up there, and then like Thor, Ragnarok. So like you know, to each their own. But which one would you say would this one would compare to?
I don't know. Like I think it's up there just from like a quality perspective. Like I just enjoyed the movie. Um, I don't know if there's like an exact comparison. I mean, I think it's definitely like more like graphic and I don't know if like spooky is the right word, but which I think people were even questioning, like how the heck is this movie PG-13? Like, there's definitely some pretty intense situations, but uh, yeah. So I can't, I can't name like a specific Marvel movie, but like I do think it's up there as like a you know S tier or A tier movie. But I'm just like obsessed with multiverse stuff, so not just Marvel, but just like broadly speaking. So so I think I was going into it with that, kind of bias for I'm probably gonna like this movie. Uh, yeah, I think that's so. I didn't really answer your question, but that was good. Like it was enjoyable. I'll probably watch it again at some point. There's like a lot of stuff going on in there, and I really like Benedict as Doctor Strange. Like I just think he's so good. So that was awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited
Even
to see it. I didn't get a chance to at all because I was busy. Obviously, did get spoiled about a certain member of a certain family. Showing up on Twitter. Damn Twitter. But it's one of those things where I kind of expected. So I'm not fully spoiled. I'll probably check it out this week. Hopefully with Erin, my girlfriend, see if we can make some time after she's done with work. We can maybe hop to the theater on the weekday and check it out. Because I'm excited. Like we talked about last week, I'm a big Sam Raimi fan, and I think that's one of those things where a lot of people saw what he brought to the Marvel universe in terms of horror So yeah, I want to check it out.
Yeah, it sounds good. Yeah, even my wife enjoyed it, and she's not a huge Marvel fan. So, and yeah, I knew because it was it's like very heavy on multiverse, and uh, that basically creates unlimited opportunity to have like crazy cameos and to bring characters back. So it's like I knew it was going to be very spoiler ridden, and so that was like one of my primary motivations for like I got to watch this movie in theaters as soon as possible so I don't get this stuff ruined. So I think only had one I only had one thing spoiled, but apparently it was like already revealed in a trailer or something. So I don't know, but yeah,
Yeah.
there's some good stuff in there that I won't talk about.
Yeah, it sounds like even if you get spoiled with something, though, there's enough like surprises and crazy cameos where you're like, "Oh, I didn't get spoiled on that." So
Yeah,
I'm excited. I'm excited for it. I'll check it out this week, and I will also say if I liked it or not. So we'll see. All right, so that does it for this episode of Pressing Buttons. Thank you for joining us, guys, and we'll see you next week. I will definitely probably be feeling way better or not. But thanks again for hanging with us. Episode 19, another one in the books, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Hugo. Bye.
I'm Nick. Later.